Hello viewers, I'm so much excited to have you back on this exciting edition of Visionary Corner right here on Millennium TV, the program that always comes to you every afternoon on Monday. You are always ensuring to get inspired on Visionary Corner, and remember that I'm your host, Doreen Kapampa, like always. We are coming live and direct from the Longacre Studios, Lusaka, Zambia, and you are catching us live on your Top Star Decoders channel 95. Alternatively, you're also able to catch us live on our Facebook page, which is Millennium TV Zambia. Anytime you miss this particular program, catch it live on our Facebook page, as it is always remaining there. But of course, I'm super excited on this particular edition as we are being joined by the two poets right here in studio. Just to introduce my guest on Visionary Corner for today, on my far left is Mr. Nicholas Kawinga. He is a poet, actor, and theater arts director. Other than that, a journalist by training. He also writes books and theater review critic articles for the Zambia Daily Mail, which is a leading newspaper here in Zambia. And just next to me is also Evans, who is also a poet, Evans Makaya, but he's well known as Evans the Magical Poet, to those of you who actually know him. He is a publisher of the book, which is called Giving Voice to the Silent, and he runs a group named TPY, Impact Voice Theatre, and that simply means the power of youths. We start by Mr. Nicholas Kawinga at the far left. Kindly just tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Thank you, and it's a pleasure to be on Visionary Corner. I don't know what to say about myself. I think your intro did mention. I'm a poet, predominantly. I am a poet. I come from theater background. I acted for the stage. I acted for the TV. We are the only group in this country that were doing TV drama. Zanase, sponsored by the Zambia National Service. Some viewers might take interest to remember guys like Greg Lungu, Dan Kanangoki with Southern, Elijah Daka, and many more, Jane Lungu, Bright Band, and the rest. We did that. Besides, I've a greater passion for literature, which is the word, telling stories. Yeah, this could be poetically or as prose. So those are things. I also direct dramas for the stage. I was the production director of Lusaka Playhouse for 3 years. I was also membership ward. All my life has been in the arts. That's theater, drama, poetry, writing. That's where I belong.
So Nicholas, coming from quite a long time, I think even before probably I was born. But how far have you gone with all this? Maybe just some successes. Maybe would want to also hear part of that.
Successes. I don't know how we measure success. It's success to be on Visionary Corner already. So this let's go. Maybe that's a success. Was it this year, Eddie, or what? NATAZ, which is Theatre Association of Zambia, conferred on me a life membership for my little contribution in the theatre arts space in this country. So I think that's an accolade. But one other accolade that I think beats all is when I was in secondary school, the Republican president of this country, who is David Kenneth Kaunda, was in the Eastern Province. We recited with my two other friends, we recited a piece of poetry, and Kaunda was huge, was just big on this continent, even in this country. So he said, where are those boys that did recite here? Just to have a Kaunda's handshake.
Wow.
Oh, it's some kind of, it beats Ngoma by my standards. By far it beats Ngoma. If somebody understands what Kaunda was. So that was the greatest accolade I did. But I've performed around this world for this country. Yeah. The biggest, I think, was in Genova, in Italy. That should have been 2014, at the 20th Geneva Poetry Festival, where there were about 96, 97 poets ruled from all over the world. I ranked in the top 5, in that, if not 3. It even got me an invitation to go and perform in Mexico at the Institute of Indigenous Languages in the Latin America. But the greatest of all is to meet young people who still run back to you and say, oh, you inspired me here. All these accolades are just vanity.
Definitely. Well, coming to you, Evans, the magical poet, that is what is commonly known. Can give us also something about yourself, people to also get to know you better, those that are not aware of the magical poet, Evans.
All right. I believe you already introduced me. My name is Evans, the magical poet. I stay in Bauleni. I started writing in 2019, but I started doing poems in 2008 when I was 6 years old. That's when I started standing in front of people, performing memory verses at church and stuff. Yeah, and then I published this book this year, that was in March. Yeah, so I was writing performing poems. Then I met this Muzungu named Anna Hajuka, who got interested in pushing me. Yeah, that's when I started pushing forward, and that's when we came up with this book.
Okay.
Yeah.
But generally, we've talked of the age of 6 when you could stand just before the public. The question is, what really inspired you to become a poet?
So I can say I was born with it. Yeah, I was born with it because I studied in church doing memory verses then.
Okay.
My mom believed in me. She was like, no, you can do better and stuff. She was pushing me. And that's how I became a poet.
Okay.
That's how I reached this far now. Sure.
You know, it's taking me back when I was young and you could say my name.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, I'm wondering how this could really come into something big. But I believe, like you said, it was just within you.
Yeah,
It was within you.
Sure.
Well, coming to you, Mr. Nicholas Kawinga, can you share with us some of your notable publications, recognitions? Well, we touched quite much on it. But probably if you left some, you can still try to highlight here and there, and just other publications. You spoke of the movies that you acted way back, but right now I can tell you are probably much into the writing, telling stories through the books. How many have you published?
I don't have a collection purely of my own. I would put a lot of poems together, and maybe I lose the computer, I give up, then maybe I do a fallback. But I've done extensive writing of poetry. I'm also published in international anthologies, that some of my writing are translated in other languages. I'm translated in Germany. There's an anthology from the University of Vienna here. This is poetry and short stories about Africa. There are a number of big writers here, Ben Okri, Taban Lolion, the Googies, I feature amongst them in this one, which is in German language. I'm also translated into Italian, the Dutch language. I don't have copies of those. I'm in this anthology also, which is multiply international. You can see, and probably in this one I should be the only African. Yeah, it was published by the Korean group of writers. I was privileged to meet with them and maybe to share these skills in writing these things. Writing is about interaction, meeting, and maybe sharpening each other. So these are some of the privileges that sometimes writers get into. You get invitation to share with young people, even with adults. So amongst this, you meet renowned writers, big yes, yeah.
Well, something really big, Mr. Kawinga, what I want to get to hear is the secret behind this achievement. Just starting it from way back, how did you discover this thing in you? Is it a talent?
I think I got to fall in love with poetry because a relative of mine then was at University of Zambia. At that time, there were a lot of skirmishes around the region. Liberation wars, and Kaunda and Zambia were at the center liberating all these countries. I'm talking about Angola, Zimbabwe, Namibia, South Africa, Mozambique. All these had a foot here. They are headquartered here. So you find a lot of our universities here. There weren't many anyway. They weren't as it is today, that even behind the bakery there's a university. No, there were quite few, and you find that in those colleges and universities, the liberation struggle was there. Student voices were there for emancipation of the African continent, and particularly the southern region. So this relative of mine was involved in those. So there was a lot of publication and material. Him was at University of Zambia. So he subjected me to some booklets where there was poetry about liberation of South Africa, liberation of Namibia. So I started taking interest in reading those pieces of poems, and probably I discovered, then maybe I started scribbling little things. I wouldn't call it poetry. I see a lot of writing which people call poetry. It leaves much to be desired. Poetry is power, the imagery, in the allegory, in the personification, all these little devices put together to communicate. Yeah, so I would say that was the start point, but I wouldn't say that was poetry. That was a desire for poetry. Yeah, because it takes time to sharpen a knack and bring it forward and call it poetry. A lot of things I see even recited, you'd ask them, what is poetry in all that you say? What you are saying, mother me AIDS, you have killed me, thank you. So if I said, what is poetic in that? Yeah, so that was the start point. But really, at Zanase, which I alluded to much earlier, which is still sponsored by National Service, I found guys like Maurice Tembo, Elijah, who were well advanced in the genre of poetry. So they would read poetry to me, would go to British Council, they used to be in town, Hero Square, would get books, African Writers Series, read poetry, would get the Greek poets, Asian poets, read them.
But Mr. Kawenga, did that come handy with the acting part of it?
Of course. Acting and poetry have always been, in fact, acting comes from poetry. The early theoreticals from 4th century. Actually, theater comes from poetic performances by guys like Thespis. That's why theater is called Thespian arts. Is the one who put words to the dramaturg. Theater had no words. People acted without words. So the one who started throwing in words was Thespis. So it became Thespian art. So poetry and theater actually they sit together. Good theater playwriters actually. Poetry is language. How beautiful is language? Or how do you want to hide the insult in poetry and what, or the satirical what, yeah. So it sits there. A lot of these arts, even journalism, borrows a lot from theater. You hear reporters, now things are at the center stage, that's theater. Theater comes from poetry.
Okay. Well, coming to you, Mr. Coming to you, Mr. Kanya, right? Want also just gets to see where to hear rather where this inspiration was also coming from. Like he has mentioned, it takes quite a lot to really sharpen it, to really get to understand you're on the right track. This is for it. Before you know it, probably you become like a writer, like without really knowing which path you're taking. Probably share with us this inspiration. Well, what did you have? Somebody you're looking up to, somebody that inspired you to feel like really I need to take this path.
Yeah, so I met a certain gentleman named Angel Olungu, who stays in Tendere. That was in 2018. Then when I met that man, I met him at school when I was in, I don't know, I forgot in the grade I was in. Then he came into our class, he said, no, I want poets, I want actors and stuff. Then I knew myself that I can do poetry. I used to do poems, my name and stuff.
Okay. But
Then
go further.
yeah, so I wanted to update and stuff. So the gentleman called us, then we went to start learning and stuff. He never believed in me at first. He was like, you cannot do it. You're not good and stuff. I was like, I can do it, just believe in me. He never did. Then until he came with someone who was deaf when it comes to reciting, he was good. Then I was like, I can beat this person. I can beat him. Then he was like, no, you can't. I was like, give me a script and you see. Yeah. I got the script. I mastered lines. which were somewhere 5 to 6 pages in a day. Then I followed him. He tried me, then he was like, no, you're good, you have the potential and stuff. Then I started following him in terms of writing. When he's writing, I'm there. I was like protocol, following him wherever he goes. Then that's when I started learning how to write. He never taught me, I was just saying what he was doing. Yeah, then one day I followed him with a poem, which is in this same book. That was the first poem I wrote, which is titled Bait of Temptations. I got the story from a certain young lady who was coming from the market. I was coming from school, she was coming from the market. Just a stranger. Then I followed her. I was like, you look bothered. What's wrong? And stuff. She was like, no, I cannot tell you and stuff. Then I followed her, not until she started narrating her story to me. Then I got something. I went home and wrote something. Then I followed her the following day. When she read the poem, she cried. Then I was like, because she was
Literally
remaining
spoke to her
silent when she was being abused. That's where the title came from. So when I followed her, after reading the poem, she cried. Then she went home and she had to speak out. Then the following day she followed me. She was like, no, I told
That's
my
how
uncle.
impactful this could be.
Yeah, she was like, I told my uncle and stuff, so
Opened up.
I don't think he will do that again, because he was abusing her in terms of sexually. So yeah, and then that's when I was like, I gave a voice to someone. She managed to speak out, and yeah,
Hence the book titled Voice to the Silent.
giving voice to the silent.
Voice
That's
to the
that's how I
silent.
started writing, which was in 2019. Yeah, because of that same poem, it inspired me. Then yeah, I became.
Other than that, could that be probably a story, probably just from your history, your life, something that got you to say, okay, I think I need to do this, I need to put a change, I need to speak to somebody because of something that you experienced, so you feel I need to really put some impact onto somebody, because I've seen you're also leading this group you're calling TPY, the power of youth. It's like you really want to push somebody to really see the beauty in them, what they really are.
Yeah.
Is there something like that?
Yeah, so the reason why I came up with that group is because I saw, most recently where I come from, I see a lot of junks and yeah, early marriages and stuff. So I was like, no, for me to put a stop to this, maybe I create something. I come up with a group, then we start acting, reciting and doing whatsoever. Then most of them got inspired. They started following me, and we made that group. Yeah. Then I started making platforms for them, going to perform in front of many, even at Lusaka Playhouse, Nasazi. There is Nasazi. So I'm trying to register the group so that we should start going for international festivals, national festivals like Natazi, the one you mentioned. Yeah. So that's it.
But what are some of your high moments in things that you do after realizing this is what you're good at, and like you changed the life of that woman who now thought, really, I need to speak out. I can't be in the dark. I can't just keep that silence shut, to break out. How does that make you feel? What are some of your moments where you feel, really, I need to keep up with this no matter the challenges on my way?
So what inspired me the most? The same poem I wrote for that girl. When I gave her the voice, I was like, if I manage to do this for this one, meaning I can do this for a lot of people. Yeah. So that's when I believed in myself. I know through poetry I can make a change. Yeah.
Wow. Interesting. Mr. Nicholas, coming to you, would want just you to walk us through your creative process when writing a poem. Where do you really find the inspiration?
The inspiration to write. It's really things that touch you. Sometimes, poetry, it's there are things that would personally touch you, but there are things that would collectively touch you as a society, as a country. There are things that there's what we call public poetry or public poem. Is maybe something happens in the country or in the region, or a war, or there's a famine, you write about that. Those are public pieces. There are things that are more personal, You know, something happens to you as a writer, or you have observed something as a writer, as a poet, then you write.
Okay.
Yeah. So the what takes me to different themes are actually matters of interest. I've been commissioned before to write poetry.
Okay.
Yeah, write poetry. It's not a lot of fun when you're commissioned, because what you write, you have to take it to the one who has commissioned you and say, no, let it sound like this.
Okay.
Sometimes you stifle the creative nuances by wanting to suit what the commissioned person is. But sometimes, as you get back to Nataz, much of the times I've refused to adjudicate poetry because the young people, you go to a function of poetry, they've reduced poetry to a tool of lamentation.
Okay.
What I mean here is that you never listen to poetry that is celebrating a life. They'll talk about corruption, AIDS, rape, drugs, what. So if you went to a festival here in this country, and there were about 14 schools or 14 groups, to me it would be one poem. Everybody will be complaining about. Of course, there are things to complain about in life, but there are also things you can be happy with. You can be happy that by virtue you are alive, by virtue you had a mother or you have a mother, or by virtue there is a son. All the poetry I see around these places, it's just complaining. So they've reduced poetry to a complaining. So I get inspired by different things. I was writing something, I went visiting, then I peeped at the window. I saw Mother Duck with about 10 ducklings swimming. I said, oh, life is exciting. She's paddling and the little ones are coming. To me, that was a moment of inspiration. I did a few lines about Mother Duck guiding the little one, keeping the calm above, and they're paddling and they're doing small things like that. The things that you don't agree with, or something has happened. I did one poem, was it last year, when Russia and Ukraine got to war. So I saw a town called, on news, on BBC Al Jazeera, that Mariupol was flattened by shelling and bombing. I said, I was troubled with that. I did a piece I shared with friends in Europe. It did circles all over Mariupol. Why are people killing each other like this? So there are a number of things. People are falling in love. Probably are falling in love too. I've gotten inspired by love, feelings, and we have written. Or sometimes we write about these things like loneliness. You know, these things like emotional things, grief, gain, loss, achievement, all those will inspire you. Morbidity, death has actually put me in the limelight. I've written hugely about death. Some of my poems that are well known in this country by a lot of people in the artistic fraternity, you find that they have something to do with death. We are so scared of death even to plan of it, or even to write in good light of it. So I wouldn't pinpoint it. I get inspired by anything. I can write anything, even about the camera. Well, what is it doing?
Mr. Karing, how has the family been so much along on this, your journey, from since you discovered those liberations you talked about? You started writing something that was not really poetry, but it went into that to where you are now.
Yeah. By the way, let me put the record right. You see, I do stumble on my early writings, like something I wrote in 88, 90. I look at it, I said, was this trash written by me? But I've kept those. There are those I've endeavored to improve, and those I've kept in their nature, because they help in a calendrical way to document that as human beings, in whatever we do, there must be growth. If we apply, we grow. We start from something, just like a baby from conception to deliver to a full-grown human being. Even these artistic things we do, we write, we act. So sometimes you'd watch yourself if you were documented acting. Oh, it was me acting in the 85, acting like that. That's terrible. But you would not say erase that, because it shows how much you have come, how much you have grown. So even the scribblings, the writing poetry, there are people that would tell you, you write more easily. No, there's investment of time, application. If you're going to find a writer that does not read, be prepared for disaster. Writers should read. The more you read, the more you sharpen the way you look at things, the more critical you become, even the more you learn stylistic writing from other writers and what. So if I say a lot, they have to sit in with it. It's I find time. I always have a book to read. I've never had a time when I don't have something to read. I always have. I find time. I must have come here to these premises in Long Acres, maybe an hour earlier. I sat across and I read the paragraph or two. It's how you find time.
Sure.
People talk or they keep on the phone, and the phone is a good thing. You can even read from the phone if there's a book. So I do find time even at home. I find time to read. I wake up early. I don't sleep too much. I was up by 3.
So they've been supportive with all.
Of course, they've been supportive. Otherwise, I wouldn't be where I am. The people you live with, the family, the relatives, they just have to be supportive. But sometimes they also have to see what you do. I've done the arts as the main thing. Where I worked in National Center, I was doing the arts. So the arts were the main thing that brought bread in the house. So they have to support it.
Definitely. Well, Evans, maybe also run us through your creative process when writing a poem. Where do you find the inspiration?
Okay, what I know is that a poet has to be more of research.
Okay.
Yeah, you have to be researching, because there are some certain situations that I don't pass through, but people are passing through.
Okay.
So what I do mostly when I want to write a poem, I go around the community.
Okay.
Yeah, seeing what people are passing through, asking for what they're going through and stuff. Once they tell me, I come up with a poem. Yeah, and as for me, when it comes to writing something that talks about happiness, it's kind of hard for me, because I just write what I have experienced.
You have never been happy in your life.
I have been happy, but not to an extent whereby I feel like writing something because of that happiness. So I write what I pass through. Yeah, what is happening in my community. Yeah, so that's where I get the inspiration, in my community and other places.
Okay. Well, then share with us how you actually approach these themes and topics in your poetry. Do you have any favorite themes or subjects?
Not really. I would say I don't have favorite subjects. I don't have favorite themes. I write anything, excluding happiness. I've never experienced that. Yeah. But other things like talking of early marriages, drug abuse, and gender-based violence, I write about that because it's what I'm seeing in the community. Okay. Sure.
All right.
Yeah, maybe a quick one. Following up on what my colleague is just said, he's never experienced happiness. I don't know. Life is not like that. There's happiness at every time. Even when things really seem so bad, there are moments of joy. Yeah, even when you are even in prison, in Sobibo, have you watched Escapee from Sobibo?
Yes,
people made love in Escapee from Sobibo. Look at other people are being killed and people were transacting with a piece of bread to entice a woman and fall in love and kiss amidst the murder and the killing. So I don't know what my poet colleague says that is never experienced, but anyway, but human beings, moments of joy and happiness are always there, no matter how depressed you are. Otherwise, cease living, stop living. If if you have never experienced happiness?
Well, I come to you, Evans. Are you telling us that this is really what pushes you even much to write poets that impact other people? Are you trying to create happiness in others? Or maybe there is a story behind why you're coming out in such a way that you really want to write about happiness?
First, I'll start by responding
Mm-hmm.
to him.
Mm-hmm.
I do experience happiness,
Mm-hmm.
but not to an extent whereby I can write something about
About
happiness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then, when it comes to the themes I
Mm-hmm.
write to give a voice to those who are silent.
Okay.
Yeah. To those who doesn't have the courage to speak, to those who feels like it's the end of the world, me being in this is the end of the world and stuff. Comforting them and telling them that there is light at the end of the tunnel.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
But where is this inspiration coming from? Where is this eagerness to ensure that you put a voice into somebody? Did you have a low moment that got you feeling I need to really to also, you came out of it and you thought I need to share to somebody who may be going through probably a similar situation?
Yeah, so some of the poems in this book
Mm-hmm.
basically are based on me.
Okay.
Yeah. So some of the stories I experienced them, some of them others were experiencing them. So
Okay.
the reason why I came up with the idea of publishing this book and giving such encouragement or voice to other people is because I experienced it.
Okay.
So I came to realize that if I can speak out and feel relieved,
Mm.
how about that one?
Meanwhile, writing those poets, it helps you feel relieved.
Yeah,
So it's a way of coming out.
Sure.
Okay.
So even when someone reading my poems
Mm.
has to feel the way I was feeling. Yeah.
Okay, it goes with emotions.
Yeah.
Wow.
Sure.
Well, but what do you think is the biggest difference between writing a poetry as a young person versus an older person like Nicholas?
I would say,
Mhm.
as for him,
Mhm.
he started a long time ago, so he knows better about poetry. Me, this is when I'm starting.
Okay.
I'm getting to know about poetry.
Mhm.
Yeah, because this is my first book. I started writing in 2019. I don't know much about poetry. I'm researching. I'm still researching.
Research.
Yeah. So I would love to get something from him, learn something from him.
Mhm, definitely, we throw the question to him.
Yeah, the what is the question?
Okay, the difference between writing a poetry as a young person versus an older person.
Okay. Writing, you see, it's individualistic kind of activity.
Mhm.
So you write to meet what you intend to meet, what you want to communicate.
Okay.
So it does not immediately come into comparison with what the young people are writing.
Okay.
Maybe young people are more inclined to write about things that excite them, or what they think are troubling them, or what they think they are failing to achieve. A grown-up poet will come to understand. Poetry is philosophy. You come to understand life.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, poetry is philosophy. What's life? What's the essence of life? How are you communicating the joys and the pains and the whereabouts of life? You find it in poetry. So I might not immediately compare with younger people, because things that move me, the values that you have as a writer, that's why a writer must be well sat, well equipped, well read. What values are you communicating to the general masses? Are these values going to supersede your life? I did a scribble yesterday, something like a man with a pen outlives even his own life, even into other centuries. So if you write something is well grounded and is sitting with the universality of human beings are universal. Doesn't matter where they are. They can be on Mars, in China, in India, in Europe, in what you find that these themes of human interest, actually, they touch human beings the same. Even the aspects of suffering, gain, joy, they are the same. It's only that the things that trigger them to those ends could be at variance. But purely we're guided, we're inspired by the same things. And maybe want to render a comment or a voice. Yeah, but don't stop living. Comment about what's happening,
Okay.
but keep living.
But how can this poetry be used to bridge the gap between different generations?
by interacting, like you people as people active in the media space, and even the writers themselves, to workshop each other, to find time. And sometimes what we call workshop don't always bring people in a formal setting. Over a drink, people are more relaxed to share what inspires them. And you get encouraged. Read. I get angry when I'm watching a play. There's no new language. I'll get to Saga Play House to watch a play for the newspaper to critique. The language never moves. It's a new play. I'm familiar to the language, the wordage, the crafting. There's nothing new. You find the 3 plays concurrently. What are the writers of those plays doing? The subjects are different, but the language, if it's coming from one writer, the Wesa, the language from this play to the what, because do you know why they don't read? They don't read, so they don't grow their vocabulary. They don't know, they don't grow how they can otherwise apply the language to mean the same things, which that should be a preserve of a poet. A poet is a craftsman using words. Say it using words in so many ways, but meaning the same, also to amuse, also to excite, also to scintillate. But you have poets whose lines are flat. What is poetic in that? I meant to mention about talking about the young people. This is in secondary school in Malawi. It's an anthology. I'm here. It's taught in senior secondary school English, but literature.
English,
I contributed some poetry here. So I'm being taught in Malawi in secondary school.
Amazing. Well, but maybe just to share with us on some topics, or rather themes in your poetry that really, even anytime you sit down and think about it, it amazes you because it came from probably real life situations.
The pieces I've gone back to and read, then I say, what poets will say, maybe that was a stroke of genius. How did I come to compose this? Even you cannot really explain, but you were in this mode, you were in this feeling that even the language that was coming out, then you said, oh, how did I come up with this? It's like the spirit being, the poetic spirit being engulfed you, overwhelmed you, and manifested. Manifestation sounds very much religious. Nothing wrong with the religiosity, but they keep repeating themselves. That's an issue. So there are things. There are pieces where I say, okay, this was a great piece. There was a piece I did sometime in early 90s. I was celebrating one colleague who died, an artist. It's a dirge, it's fair. And it has ended up as an anthem. Every other people that die have performed it sometimes, and people say, oh, that's a brilliant piece. Even up to now, I don't know what really hit me to throw me in that mode and compose those lines and whatever. But it's something fantastic, I think. I've shared it in a number of countries where I've performed. But by the way, I've performed in the region. I performed at Market Theatre in South Africa. I've performed at Wits University in South Africa. I've performed at UNAM in Windhoek. I've performed in Blantyre. I've performed in Zanzibar. I've performed in Uganda. I performed in West Africa, in Sierra Leone, Dakar, what was that? So I can get the feedback. I performed in Europe. I performed in Germany, in England, Italy. The last European before COVID, I went to Switzerland. I was performing in Biobiyang. I almost eclipsed the guys that were there.
Well, Mr. Kaunda, is it because, having all these performances, there is a secret to it that I believe Evans here would love to get? Is it because you put it part of you? This is really part of you. It moves within you, and like you mentioned, these are emotions. You put everything together. You are in that mood. You're feeling whatever is going around, that you come up with such good writings that's blowing everywhere.
I don't know, maybe it's a passion, but also how much you endeavor to sharpen that passion. If you feel comfortable, writers keep writing. Writers keep reading. Writers keep interacting. Writers keep looking at different facets of life. Writers keep musing about nature. Writers should muse about nature. They must appreciate what God created, or what created itself, if you don't believe in the religiosity of who created what. But you must get inspired. Writers must be observant. What is you're in a room, and if there's a particular bird that sings at a particular time of the morning, you must be able to listen to it. Is it morning or is it joyful? And maybe capture it in the assumed mood of how does it sing closer to your window at a particular time. Then you discover it's a well happy lot of a bird. Then can you transfer that joy, the singing of the poetry of a new day is in the melody of the birds. I've written such lines.
Amazing. Very observed, very sensitive people, poetry. Well, coming to you, Evans, how do you think poetry can be used as a tool for social justice, especially that you're leading this TPY group, the Power of Youth?
I believe poetry gives us confidence to stand in front of many.
Okay.
Yeah. So, so I use poetry as a tool to preach to people. Yeah, because you find that the only time you get to talk to people, to a lot of people, is when you have something like a show. Yeah, then that's when you get a chance to speak to them. So you can use poetry as a tool to preach to them. That's how I use it, even in my group. That's what we do.
Then can you share with us a poem that you think addresses a pressing social issue, probably that you managed to, perform before the public?
I would share the same Beauty of Temptation.
Okay.
Yeah. Though I lived in poverty, though my heart screams a voice of desperation, I was young. You could have given advice, but you fell for the bait of temptation. You felt love in undressing my skate. You felt love in touching my breast, forgetting that the reason why I have this is because it's because of puberty. Sorry, sir, but you're a disgrace to humanity. You're everything broken about this society. It's not me who needs fixing, it's you. Because I was better before. I think I've forgotten the last lines.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's
so that's it. So that's the story of that same girl that I was saying. Yeah.
Okay.
So I gave that voice.
It's a real life situation.
Yeah, it's a real life situation whereby if someone hears it, you would even relate that someone was passing through this and stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
Sure.
But apart from the TPY group that you're actually leading in the society, we also have the marginalized. But how do you think poets can be used as a platform to amplify these voices for the marginalized?
When I came up with this book, I started going around because there are many people who doesn't afford to buy this one.
Okay.
So I used to go around in maybe churches, reading out the poems to them. Then you would find that they get courage to go and speak out. That way you're giving a voice through poetry.
To many out there.
Yeah.
Mr. Kawinga, can you share with us a personal philosophy or mantra that guides your writing and life?
Yeah, life. One is truth. Values like honest, forgot it, be satisfied with very little. I've got some lines where I say, I need so little to be happy. I don't need a lot of things. I need so little to be happy. I dwell on the frugality, very little. Yeah, life is not a competition. If the other lady is driving, you go and steal, or you get into crime to go and buy a house or buy a car. Be satisfied. We are talented differently. We get to our destinations differently. Sure. Some people hope, some will walk, others will run, others will cycle, others will drive, others will fly. Sure. But they get to their destination. What things excite you most? To reach out to other people, which others go to touch other people, to feel we have rendered help to somebody. We are all privileged to help. The late Pope John Paul II, the Catholic Pope, said no one is so poor to give and no one is so rich to receive. It depends what you give. You might give comfort, you might give counseling, you might give audience. Some people talk always without keeping quiet. Give somebody an audience. Keep quiet, listen to them. Inspire, listen to what they're saying, then see how. I think things like moving, making a contribution to community in whatever little way you can. If you can help, help. The little help you think is too little, it might mean something to other people. So be of value to community. Gandhi, Mohandas Gandhi, yes, Mahatma Gandhi is Mohandas Gandhi.
Oh,
yes,
okay.
yes,
I
yes.
didn't know that.
Yeah, it says a life should be of value to community. A life should be of value to community. Don't leave it for yourself. Leave it for other people. Let it be of value to others. So it's from that background that actually my writing is guided. Sometimes I love satire. I love to mock. If you want to mock other people, start by mocking yourself. Mock your being. Yeah, mock your being, make humor. If you create leverage to be mocked, you even distance your anger point. If you have ability to mock yourself, yeah, people can say things to you, they'll not spark you into a fight. It will paralyze you. You already know how to mock yourself, so you allow them to mock you more.
Mr. Kayenga, that's the secret of believing in yourself. You've gone in the diaspora, you performed before so many people. Maybe just to share with us those experiences when you are out there. Sometimes people forget who they are when they go there. They do. So I feel probably honest, like you mentioned, the truth and all this, the mantra you've actually explained to us. Is this what has helped you to even still stand out wherever you went?
Yeah, that has helped, but also you have to believe in yourself. You have to believe that human beings are basically universal. That's why invest in yourself in terms of knowledge. Read. Don't be overrun by people that have read nothing. Reading gives you confidence. Knowledge gives you confidence. It doesn't matter where you are. If you're well informed. I belong to a big writers institution or community called PEN. Yeah. Here we have PEN Zambia, which I'm part of. But there's PEN Malawi, there's PEN one. So amongst this writer community, you find you meet a lot of people. So things that have made me jump on a stage, and stage fright is normal for every actor. Yeah, but it's how you deal with it. The bigger you are performing, the more the stage fright. How would you perform? Say if you're performing before the current president, HH, yeah, how is he going to feel? How am I going to feel? I can perform before him. I don't think what is going to find what I've performed before bigger people than him. Yeah. Real big thing, and even big writers like Roy Shoinka, Margaret Atwood, performed before those guys that I think these can critique. Yeah. So it's believing in yourself. One other time, it must have been in Italy. I had them change the program. My initial performance was in a town called Lavagna, which is like 45 kilometers north of where that's Genoa, where Christopher Colombo came from. Yeah, so I performed there. I was whatever number, where must have been 12 performers. I must have done so well. At the main performance, I was supposed to perform like number 3, number 4. The festival director, he wasn't there, but he was told, oh, that guy put him almost last. So he just came a few minutes to my performance, so I needed to have changed the program. Program that is printed, is in the brochure, is what was it? I'm supposed to perform third or fourth. They put me almost second last. I said, why? I said, no, we heard about why we want to keep you for the last. To me, it gave me a lot of anxiety, but again, it was an honor to me. I said, oh, so these guys, I must have blasted good enough. Yeah, so
Amazing.
it's believing in oneself.
Definitely. Well, Evans, share with us your personal mantras as well. I believe those upcoming writers out there would also want to get your personal philosophy, or rather the mantra that guides you as you are writing and just life as well in general.
When it comes to writing, you just have to believe in yourself, and more of researching, like I said. Yeah, to become a writer, you have to pass through, you have to put yourself in other people's shoes. I should say, like me, the way I go around getting stories, I put myself in other people's shoes. I feel what they were feeling. Yeah, then I come to write. So if you want to become a writer, firstly you have to be confident enough, and more of researching, reading, like he said. Yeah.
Okay.
That's it.
But how are you managing to balance your creative pursuits with other aspects of your life? Because like you mentioned, it takes a lot, but these people should believe in you because this is what brings butter and bread on the table. So it does much of the reading, much of you are always observing. It's quite a lot, but how are you managing to balance all this?
Okay, to me it was a bit challenging because I was doing double school and writing plus working. So I used to do three things at the same time. But I used to balance. I would find time for my writing skills, I would find time for work, and find time for my books, studying for school. Yeah, so it's, you just know how to utilize time.
Definitely.
Sure.
Well, Mr. Kawinga, you, from all the inspiring, the adventure you've taken us on, was there a point where you felt like, well, I think I need to give up, this is too much, it's too involving?
No, I think I was cut out for the arts. I was cut out for the arts. I don't think I've had a point where I always have something challenging, so I enjoy meeting challenging things. And yesterday we had a production, there's something we should be doing with colleagues that I think, yeah, I look forward to something challenging. So writing, no. Writing is where I'm cut. I feel I've dropped something if I've not read, if I've not written. I write even short things. I take a view, I'll be in the bar, I'm waiting, I'm in the club, I'm waiting for somebody. If an idea comes, I scribble. I scribble. I look at things, something funny happens, I scribble. I use those as ideas to go and develop. Yeah, so every time I see something queer or something exciting, I note down, I keep it, then I'll grow it. I don't think I'd at the point to say, okay, no, poetry is my life, I am poetry. The two of us are inseparable until death does us part.
Well, Evans, do you ever feel like that, even as you're just beginning your journey? How is it coming out?
Okay, like he said, writing. As for me, there was a time I went, I've forgotten the place where I met Molly. I was waiting for a certain guy named Patrick who did the photography in my book. Then I had nothing to do. Then the place where we were at, it was cultural thing. I started writing something about culture. That's where the concept came from. So I wrote something about culture, just like 4 lines. Then I kept that for future use. Yeah. So it's challenging, yeah, to me. To me, it's challenging. I have to find time to go around finding stories and stuff. As for him, his experience, so I believe.
You're trying to build that.
Yeah, I'm trying to reach this level, if God allows, and if but I believe in myself. I will.
Definitely.
Sure.
I think even as we're wrapping up, Mr. Kawinga, just your advice to give aspiring poets out there who are just starting out, even to our own poet here in the studio with us.
Yeah, I think poetry is an art. I don't know which writer said the crown of literature, the crown, the pinnacle, the crown of literature is poetry. Poetry is supposed to be deep. Poetry is supposed to be deciphered, enjoyed, devoured, eaten. Deliberately poetic, I'm bringing up this word. Yeah, a poet has words for his tools. So how big is your vocabulary? And poetry is not limited to English or these colonial languages, Spanish, French, you name it. No, let's write poetry in our languages, in Slozi, in Tonga. I write poetry in Chichewa. Yes.
Mbwenzi azikhulupiririka osati mbwenzi okoma chabe pokwera akadza kusevenzetsa ubwenzi watha ubwenzi wa nkhwangwa si ubwenzi ni ubwenzi oipadi ubwenzi wa nkhwangwa si ubwenzi anthuni ukakhala mlimi khala cheru khala nzeru nthabwina mbewu yako sizagulidwa ubwenzi wa nkhwangwa ngoyipa si ubwenzinso ubwenzi wa nkhwangwa ukakhala mulusaka khala cheru udzapunkhidwa ndi mawilibala koposa magalimoto ubwenzi wa nkhwangwa ni ubwenzi woyipa ubwenzi wa nkhwangwa wodyera na masuku pamutu.
The incident I talked about where I was invited to go to Mexico is because of a Chichewa poem. I was reciting a Chichewa poem that was not translated into Italian to a almost nearly a Mzungu audience packed. Poetry has got its own language. It has musicality, the rhythmic in the way, the journey, it communicates. Even a language, you can tell if somebody is maligning you in a language you don't understand. From the facial expression, from denotation of the language, nuances, you can tell somebody is saying something good or bad. So, yeah. So for the young people, let's write in our languages. Let's not limit ourselves to English, which much of the time, the poetry I see from the young people, they say it's in English. It's actually horrible. Yeah, but let's improve it. Let's write our own language. Let's workshop each other. Let's not always lament, and let's appreciate life. Let's read. The start point is reading. If you have a writer who doesn't read, like I said, it's chaos.
It's chaos.
It's chaos.
Well, as we're wrapping up, Mr. Kawinga, anything else you'd like to share with the audience, and just your final thought or message that you'd want to leave out, to leave our viewers with, something they'll remember you on the Visionary Corner?
Visionary Corner has been a good experience. What I can say to the viewers and young people, talking about poetry, talking about theater, talking about language, all this sits in culture. Actually, language is the primary transmitter of culture. People that cannot identify themselves culturally by what they eat, culture is a rebirth. It's a lot of things. It's food, it's dress, it's language, it's what, it's song, it's dance. So as Zambians, we have to be happy with our culture. Let's market our culture. Let's speak our languages. Let's eat our food. Let's not look at our things that identify us as Zambians as something lower than those that we think we are associating ourselves with coming. I know life is not in isolation. There are things that come from outside this country that influence life here. But let's keep what is ours and identify ourselves by it. Languages, and let's write poetry. This is the Kaunda anthology. Yeah, I also contributed to it. It was done by the Sword Train to commemorate Kaunda. Kaunda would have turned 100 years today. I mean this year. Yeah.
Okay. How can people really follow your work and just stay updated with your latest projects?
Oh, a few. It's the trouble is that I'm not. I'm learning the social media thing. I've never been on Facebook in my life. Yeah, even the WhatsApp I was bullied. Yeah, because of work.
Busy reading.
No. There are things that take. I believe in the reverse action. If people are going this way, I go in the other way. Yeah, if everybody is going this, I go the
Ready
other.
to face the challenge.
Yeah. Amongst my friends, I owned the phone. When everybody around me had a mobile phone, I didn't have one.
Well,
One would think I'm a radical, but I don't know. I don't easily get moved. Yeah. With everybody around me at the car, I don't have a car. Yeah.
well, so no Facebook page where they can access you?
No, I don't have. Now I'm sharing, maybe because of demand, I get boxed. I'm putting things together. I much earlier in June, July, I sent almost 125, 26 pieces of poems to a colleague. He's in the US. He's a consulting editor of a publishing house in New York. So I want him to do a complete collection of mine. Of purely my writing. So that will be another one. I hope we can get done on that project in the first half of next year.
Definitely.
Yeah, so they'll get the books. But other pieces, yeah, they can get them in other publications and stuff.
All right. Well, Evans, you can also share your few last words to the viewers out there and just how they can also access your work.
Okay. As for me, you can find me on Facebook. I have a page. You can just search Evans Poet. Yeah, you'll find me there. And as at the moment, I want to start using social media because I'll be recording poems and shooting and stuff. So, yeah, once you follow my page, you will find such videos on
What is the name of the page?
Evans Poet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not the magical.
Magical. I'm about to edit it
I
now.
put magical
Yeah,
for
magical.
it.
So the reason why I came up with that same name, the Magical Poet, is because I put myself in other people's shoes, which is magical.
It's magical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's how I came up with that name. And we also have a show at the Saka Playhouse, which is next year on the 14th February. Yeah, I was called by a certain group named Great Echoes. I'll be reciting for them. It's a very good play.
We look forward to it.
Sure.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on this edition of the Visionary Corner. I really learned a lot, and I believe our viewers out there have gotten a lot. We wish we had time to just get a piece, a line.
From me.
Yes. All right. Dear viewers, on this particular edition, joining us was Mr. Nicholas Kawinga, poet, actor, and a theatre arts director, a journalist by profession, by training, and he writes books and theatre review critic articles for the Zambia Daily Mail, which is a leading newspaper in Zambia. Alongside was also Evans, the magical poet. Real name's Evans Makanya, who also actually joined us and also leading a group, for those that don't know, which is TPY in short, to also join the power of youth. And I've been your host, Doreen Kapampa. Thank you so much for staying with us on this particular edition. Look forward for more inspiring stories right on Visionary Corner. From me for now, it's bye-bye.